Welcome to You're On in 5, The Art of Understudying.
The only podcast to celebrate the work of actors in understudy roles.
Understudying demands tons of preparation with minimal rehearsal.
Or sometimes none at all.
But it can end in triumphant glory.
In these conversations, we'll amplify the diverse voices of actors who have understudied. We want to hear about the artist's technique, experience, and journey.
As well as whatever's on our mind that day. I'm Scott. I'm an actor, an acting coach, teaching artist, and all-around creative dude. And you might know me from the 2009 micro-budget film Decomposed, available on Amazon. At least it was like 10 years ago.
I'm Elana Elise. I am an actor, coach, director, writer, producer, and you might know me from this one GFS commercial in the background. I was a cashier. It was a really great time.
Yes. Our guest today is Joe Lino. You might know him from Actors Theater of Louisville, Drury Lane, in Terabang Theater Project, where he is a
ensemble member.
Ensemble member. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
As well as the Goodman. So we are very happy to have you today. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
For sure.
We start off our interviews with the same question. And this question is, what was your first understudy job?
My first understudy job. So technically it did happen in college, but I only bring it up because it kind of laid the bar for the rest of how I handled the rest of my understudy situations. Okay. So it was my senior year. It was our production of Romeo and Juliet. I was cast initially as Tybalt, and because of our requirements for the school graduating, they're like, well, he has to do an understudy something. So they were just like, well, I'm understudy Romeo. And in my mind, I'm like, it's my senior year, not going to do that. It's like last semester. Graduation is right around the corner. And so I didn't. So it's funny that you talk about the preparedness or not, because I did not prepare. Flash forward to our second weekend. I get a call up before our Sunday matinee saying, hey, Romeo's father has unfortunately passed away. You're on.
Oh, my God.
And I had to have the conversation with my director. Everything flashing through my mind of like, they're not going to give me a diploma. I'm not going to graduate. Being like, hey, I can't go on. And he was like, okay, so how much time do you need? In my mind, I'm like, I just need to please people. So I'm just like, I can do it tomorrow. I can go on Monday. I can go on like for the next show. So I went home and I memorized the entire Romeo Shakespeare, the play. Basically, he talks the whole time, in a night. I memorized Romeo in a night. I went on, it was a blur, and I finished out the show as Romeo. And I never, ever did not prepare again.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is incredible. And what a great lesson to learn in college before you hit the real world.
So glad it happened in college and not exactly. Yeah. No ticket subscribers. No money was really lost. I think we only had like 4 shows in total. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
That encompasses so much like of anything else we might ask you.
Mm-hmm.
But because that's the groundwork you laid, then what was your next like understudy gig after that?
Definitely.
Horrendous experience?
After that horrendous. So once I was like, okay, so this actually can happen. I had the wonderful opportunity to be cast at Steppenwolf in a production of This Is Our Youth, directed by Anna Shapiro. Right out of college. And it was a production that starred Michael Cera, Kieran Culkin, Tavi Gevinson. It was a dream. It was absolutely amazing. So that is an understudy thing that I took very seriously. I was in the room, very focused. Obviously watching Michael Cera and Kieran Culkin work was amazing. So it wasn't hard to zoom in there, but yeah, that was my next official in the city on the resume. You bet I had it on my resume.
Yeah.
Did you have to go on?
So given the nature of the show, it was a pre-Broadway run. So we technically weren't allowed. I mean, if we had to go on, I'm sure they would, but people weren't there to see us. They were there to see the stars. But the great thing about it, we had a wonderful stage manager who just loved us. She took us under her wing, and because we were so prepared and so ready to go, she gave us our own performance. She had the tech come in, we had costumes, we had lights, we had everything, and she invited the ensemble. I'm not entirely sure who showed up because my mind was like, oh. But yeah, that was a great thing. We didn't actually have a scheduled performance, but they let us do our kind of own little, we could invite our friends. So yeah,
That's really nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
it was sweet. It was great. I loved my experience with them.
Nice.
When you're understudying, like, were you understudying just one of the roles or two of the roles?
I was just one. I was understanding Kieran Culkin's role.
Cool. So, like, when you're understudying, I mean, Kieran Culkin, he's not like the most famous actor, but he is fairly well known.
Yeah.
Did you? What kind of like relationship did you have with him?
Though the entire cast, but specifically those two, they also loved us. It was a great. They wanted to be our friends, and we're standing in the corner like, that's Michael Cera. But they were like so willing. They wanted to go get drinks with us. They took us out for like, food on the time they wanted to spend with us. And once we actually got into the theater, there was only 3 of them and then 3 understudies. So it was a very tight-knit group. They had Mario Kart in their dressing room that I remember. They were like, come play with us. It was a very warm, welcoming experience. So it was great.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That makes such a huge difference.
It really does. It really does. When you have actors that treat their understudies as, people.
People, right.
Yep.
Oh, but now it makes me want to ask you about any horrible understudy experience you had besides the college one, but like where you did everything you were supposed to do, but the experience itself was like just in contrast to that one.
I haven't. So I was racking my brain. I guess next to the college one, I haven't had that nightmare. You're on in 5. Every performance I've had, I've gotten to know about, or at least had enough time to prepare. In terms of negative, or just like I did everything and just didn't. I would say, it leads to part of it that's most challenging when you get into a show that's so ensemble based and like technical. Specifically, I was referring to Peter and the Starcatcher, which I did. Actually, it was my second job in the city. I moved straight from there. And given the nature of the show, if you two are familiar with it, and for listeners, it's a very they're throwing sticks, like they're making pictures with their bodies, like it's very formative from rehearsal day one. And to be understudy for that, and to be tracking multiple roles, I think I covered two or three roles. You're constantly writing, and to not really get a chance to like get up there and move your body with them too. That's a challenging one. So that one, I would say that when you put in so much work, and then when you're up there, you're like, I've never done this before, or like close enough to the plate. So, but yeah, I've been fortunate that I haven't had any really, really awful understudy things. Cross fingers.
Yeah. When you're understudying multiple roles, especially in something that's very ensemble based, I believe Peter and the Starcatcher has music and dances too.
Oh yeah.
Like how do you keep straight like one track from the other?
For technically speaking, I colored highlights. That's what I did. I think I made one character blue, one character red. And then, I think honestly, looking back, the way I work as kind of an actor is that I need to be doing it physically. I can't just be writing, blocking down, like I need to be doing it. And so one of the parts of the process, luckily, the actors were great people and treated us like people. And they were so willing to show us and work with us behind the scenes and like swap us in and out of scenes. So that was very helpful as well.
Yeah. I was going in Second City in Michigan, and I had a full rehearsal. Like I had more heads up than the time before, and but there was a lot of all of the transitions were highly choreographed, and there was a fight scene that included tossing chairs, and like it was a lot, and I got to do it once with the cast. And like a lot of times, like while during the put in rehearsal, I was just kind of marking, but I'm processing it. So then I had to perform it and like nailed it. And one of the actors like came to me after the second show and was just like, I was terrified because of how rehearsal had gone. And I had never dropped a chair or hit through one in the wrong direction or anything, but I was really just like, blah, just like all over, but I was I knew I was absorbing it. You know what I mean? And so, I wasn't thinking about what they were thinking, but to hear how afraid he was for doing the show with me and that I didn't miss a beat felt like really, really cool because it was a lot. It made me feel, it was like one of my one of my favorite moments of like delivering,
Oh yeah.
like it was a
I mean,
lot
that
to
feeling
process.
of just getting able to, especially with a show like that, and jumping in and feeling, because it's a machine, and you just become a part of it, and that feeling of accomplishment is huge. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. I think I got 2 performances out of Peter, and just that, because it's a beast of a show, anyways. And then when you're thrown into it, you're just adrenaline all the time. So yeah, I get that totally. Yeah.
Yeah. How well, we talked about this a little bit with This Is Our Youth, but in terms of like the ensemble of Peter and the Starcatcher, like how did they kind of work you in or make you feel comfortable?
Yeah. Well, understudy rehearsals were a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was at Drury Lane, so it's in the burbs. So they limited it to us once the show was open. I think we only had to go out there like once a week. We saw the show, and we usually rehearsed before that. So those were very helpful. That's a way that I think most equity theaters, kind of that standard, the stage manager will kind of help you and lead you through, and that's where you get all of your like kind of technical stuff. So that's when you're actually on the stage, and yeah, that's kind of like the step one. So getting us all secured there, and the actors also too. They were great. They were just so one of the dudes I understudied, he actually had to go out, I think, pretty close to the beginning of rehearsal. So everyone's still very script in hand and stuff like that. But I'm still trying to like write down blocking for him and like all that stuff. And he got me like a huge bottle of whiskey afterwards. And so like just that camaraderie of, they were always willing to help. They were always willing to like, what do you need? Because they know they're working, and they know the beast of the show, and they know that it's not easy to jump into because it's not easy to learn. So yeah, I think a combination of great stage management, great people supporting you, and yeah, that's what got me through that, definitely. And the other understudies. I think there were a total of 4 of us. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Joe, is 2 the maximum roles you've understudied at once, or have you had to do more than that?
I believe 2 is the max, which I can't imagine doing more. I mean, that would make my brain explode. So
Right, it's crazy. So just real quick, in addition to the one time in college you had a role and you internally understudied. Have you done that since then?
Yes, I have internally. Actually, with Dracula at Actors Theater of Louisville, I was in the show and also ensembling, or understudying one of the ensemble members, and went in for one of the characters with that. And that, talk about a beast of a show. I don't know if you're familiar with Dracula down at Actors Theater of Louisville, but it's their like yearly horror fest, and they put a horror movie on stage. So it's another huge technical one that like you constantly have to be going, and we did throw in understudies all the time because it also ran for I think close to like 3 months. So a lot of people were going in and out. So yeah, another crazy thrill ride.
Right. So then when because this is always my confusion, and I've refused to internally understudy, right? Because I'm like, no, I can't.
Interesting.
Okay. But because then so then an understudy steps into your role. Like, is it also an internal understudy who does, so everything just kind of shifts?
It depends on, so like in college, obviously it's college, they're forgetting, but like it was a domino effect. So when I was taken out, someone had to replace me who was also in the cast, who was also in the cast. So like it kind of messed up a huge thing. So I don't see that model as much. Usually if they have a internal understudy covering roles, they'll have external understudies kind of like ready to go to replace them. And they usually won't do that with too many people because I think it just gets confusing for a through line.
Yeah. Scott, you have done that, right?
Yeah. The internal understudy.
That craziness.
yeah. So no, I have internally understudied. I think I only did it twice. And one, I was aware of it from the beginning. Well, I was in the chorus, which was kind of a role that they made up for this production. So we kind of went into the process with like, okay, so we're chorus in a musical that doesn't actually have a chorus as written.
A chorus, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were always kind of making up new stuff and throwing bits in. And I mean, we were, of course, involved in scene changes and things like that. So it actually ended up being very much more busy than I expected it. And then I'm also understudying the 2 male roles. Wow. Yeah. And that one, I mean, this was one of my first jobs out of college. And I just did not prepare Like, I just didn't.
Oh,
And
no, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
I wish.
It's an awful situation to not be prepared in.
Yeah, no, totally. And well, I mean, but it was also like one of those situations where like the understudy was such an afterthought for them that it really felt like they didn't expect to use me. Which is just like on my part, I shouldn't have believed that. But but it was also, I think, because of the way that they use their understudies, kind of a lot to ask. And thank God it was just like a 3-weekend run, and the guys were totally healthy the whole time. And then the other one that I did was Poseidon for Hell in a Handbag, and I was in the chorus of it. This is 2009 as well. It was like a 3 or 4 month run. And towards the end of it, the guy playing Nani, if you're familiar with the Poseidon Adventure, she's kind of a ditzy lounge singer. And so I'd been watching this play for 3.5 months, especially in the course of that play. You're very much watching the main actors on screen, like you're very separated from them. So it was a lot easier to jump into that role because I'd seen it 30 times. And I of course I knew the ensemble of the show, so everybody was super supportive, and that was a great experience. But that I didn't know I was understudying until like 3 weeks before, and we had already been doing the show for 3 months, So that was a nice experience in terms of understudying. And also with that show, it felt like a big enough deal that I had to nail it. I think the other show was like a community theater-ish. Like
same mentality of me in college. Like, I'm graduating. Yeah. It sneaks up in many forms. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and then you have that anxiety about like, oh my God, I hope it's not today.
What if?
Exactly. Like, what if it happens, and then like I got to go on. Like, what happened to you is exactly my worst nightmare.
Yeah. I think that it was a case of, it was very fortunate from the get-go. I can't imagine if that would have happened at an equity house. I think I just would have just, nope, not coming in, just I'll disappear now.
I would have dropped dead, I think.
Yeah, either that.
No, I would have been like, actually my dad died too. So
I gotta go. What do you want me to do?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, man. Were there, just to go back to that Romeo and Juliet real fast, were there any sword fights that you had to
Oh my gosh, we had dances, we had sword fights, and I had to, that was the thing, Romeo fights Tybalt, we're all familiar, he kills him. So like, that was also weird too, because I'm like, I had been training, I mean, Tybalt was the dream role for me. He didn't speak much and he got to fight. Like, that's all I wanted for my last role at my college. So like, I was just focusing on it and then having like to relearn it, and like, it was a lot. And to dance, I think I did like re-dance with myself. It was a weird transition.
Wow.
Yeah. And it happened in a night. That's the other crazy thing that I keep, I guess, reminding myself, is that it went 24 hours. We put that together in 24 hours. It's just, when people want to do something, people get it done. It's the amazing thing. And I think, where else do we see that better represented than theater?
Exactly.
True.
100%. Your experiences that we've heard about so far sound so enriching. So like, what do you feel like, if anything, that you can really identify having learned from understudying that you apply when you, as Scott likes to say, overstudy? So like, when you're a principal, like that you can directly recognize that you definitely learned or grew from understudying?
Humility, definitely, right off the bat. Like, just, and then how to treat your actors. Like, I was blessed with, luckily I didn't get treated like poop the first time out. Like, and so that really cemented in my brain. And I remember having many conversations, and it's still to this day, and of like, you always treat your understudies with the utmost respect, because they're your safety net. They're the safety net for the show. They're safety net for you. And And also like just getting to watch understudies are just the flies on the wall. Like you get to see everything. You get to see how the stage managers think about the actors. You get to think, or you get to see like how they all interact or how they like work together. So that perspective carries on. So once you're actually in front of the room, and again, it's humility, because you know that the stage managers are talking about you, they're judging you, and they're like, honestly, they're the ones that are going to get you hired the next time. So having that perspective from behind the table or in the corner of the room or wherever they placed me, really, really helped when I was actually overstudying, as you say, because that perspective is huge. It's huge.
Yeah, and it's really like just treat people like people, right? Like that's it, right? Like
it's so simple.
It doesn't matter, and that hierarchical attitude is so bizarre to me, especially transitioning from Detroit theater to Chicago theater, because we always we're all hands on deck, right? Like all the time, principals, understudies, crew, etc. Like grassroots at its finest. And so it wasn't until I came here that sort of divide was clear, not only just between principals and understudies, but between actors and design crew, actors and management. It was just and to experience actors feeling like they that they all their only job is learn these lines and do I mean, I understand it, but it hadn't been my experience. It was always all of our production stuff, and I worked a lot in Detroit despite people thinking that there's nothing there. They had always been so communal that it was a huge adjustment for me to recognize, not to give into it and behave in that way, but to recognize that it was a thing and most people respected it as that, as these separations. And it took some adjusting. And so I just I know it happens. I'm still not a huge fan of it. 'Cause we're literally all in this together,
Yeah. I kind of think of acting as or at least in Chicago it is, as a blue collar profession in many ways. Especially when thinking about, understudying and the humility that you have to have in that, and the work ethic that we have in Chicago, and just kind of the camaraderie of, I mean, what you said about the guys from This Is Our Youth, they didn't, put you in a different class.
No, they saw us as actors. That's the other thing, because understudies, contrary to popular belief, are actors. So just they're in your ensemble, they're part of your cast, they're part of your team. And I think it leads in it's always a huge tell for me, and I've never walked away from a company, because luckily a lot of companies in Chicago have their shit together, and they treat their understudies, but it's always a huge tell of immediately watch for how a theater company treats their understudies. I think that's always a huge tell, because it speaks to so many levels. It speaks to their security in the show, how much they value putting up a good show, a consistent show, and also it kind of just shows them how they treat people. So
definitely I feel like understudying for equity houses is usually pretty great, because you do have that institutional support. Whereas in a lot of non-equity theaters, everybody's kind of pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, and just it's a miracle when a non-equity show happens, So then to add understudies into that, do you have the budget for them? Do you have the time to rehearse them? Is a big deal.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with that.
I think that was a pretty solid point. It was pretty complete, and this is, and we are here to tell you, yes, you need to figure out the budget. Yes, you need to hire them. Yes, you need to make sure that they are prepared, because we all know, having, with Joe and I being in Interrobang, and then Scott, you being aware, we went through a period of time where it was always in question. Every show is in question, especially when there was ensemble in the show, because we think of understudies being necessary for emergencies, but then we default to the expectation that there will be no emergencies. So, we had to keep discussing it to say okay, being ensemble doesn't mean there won't be an emergency. It means that we're not just going to go take another gig. That's all you can rely on from your ensemble most of the time. Like, we're still a non-equity house. We can't necessarily say that if someone gets a screen hookup or, one of the larger theaters, that they're going to be like, I got to stay here because I am a company member. We can't even be sure of that. We'd like to believe that's the case. So, we were, for a couple of seasons, it was always a discussion every show. And then we just got to a point, with some of us really pushing, like, nope, let's just do it. No, let's do it, because the whole thing is just in case. And then gratefully, our lesson was learned by having it with the Out of Love, right? Yeah. Like, we literally needed our understudy to go in mid-run and finish out the run. And so it's like that immediate, we were already in the habit of it at this point, after all the back and forth, season by season, show by show. And then it was like, well, what would we have done? If we right. hadn't, and that understudy had to replace an ensemble member, so, and we are, a storefront, non-equity, not a big budget, but it's like, let's figure out a way. And so then the next part of that is making sure they're rehearsed enough, because even though we had them and they were attending rehearsals and such, we still had to go dark a couple nights to make sure she was prepared to go on. And so what was really great is that then we had the experience of the next show, which was Scott in Here Lies Henry. And it was by happenstance, but we were able to rehearse the understudy every week and guarantee him a performance at the opening weekend, during the opening weekend, so that he was definitely ready. So I think that, of course, with those two experiences, I think that we're going to be like really a little more energetic about how we prepare them when we are all in theaters again.
Yeah.
Alana,
one day.
With Interrobang, it seems like in the last few shows, at least, you guys have had smaller casts. Has that been on purpose?
Yeah, we tend to, I think the maximum number of actors we've used at once is probably 6, and I really think it's 5. I'm saying 6 because I like to give myself benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
But we tend to, and the kinds of stories we tell, lend themselves to that. The budget we operate under, it requires that.
And you pay your actors.
We pay our actors,
yes,
and we are in every season. Like, we've organized a campaign so that every season we can increase that a bit. So like it's a priority, and so yeah, we really really prefer a smaller cast, and we work in a black box too. So like all of it just makes sense for us, resource capacity and interest wise.
Totally.
Yeah.
Joe, we have a segment on our show called "But What Are You Doing for Money?" Obviously, this is inspired by our uncles and aunts who are mystified by our choice in life. So obviously, Corona and 2020 is like a shit show. But in general, maybe before COVID, or if you have things going on post-COVID, like how do you make a living?
How do I make a living? So pre-COVID, I was a standardized patient, which for those who are unfamiliar, when medical students are going through, so I'm at Northwestern, so when Northwestern medical students need to practice on people and they're not ready to actually go to real sick people, they use us. So usually they pull from actors, so we get a case of like coming with a headache, coming with a stomach ache, and so we're basically their test dummies there. So I was doing that before COVID, and they took a break, I think, for about like 2-3-ish months when it was really bad there at the beginning. But they've slowly started to get the students back into the center. So I've been able to go in there a little bit more. I feel very safe because it's a hospital environment too. So they're, gowned up and they have their gloves and their 3 masks and eyeglasses too. So I feel very safe. So that's what I've been getting back into. Before, I also did some dog walking. I tried to keep a very flexible schedule. I tried the temping job for a little bit when I first got here, and that was kind of how I supported myself for the first 3 years. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have kind of like a more flexible, so little odd end jobs, anything I can stick in there, especially nowadays. So,
yeah.
Do you have any jobs that you want me to do? I'll use this time to plug myself.
That's awesome. Do you find with the standardized patient gigs that does it serve your acting in any way?
So it does. There's different cases. So there's a lot of stuff we cover. A lot of the medical stuff, it's just so technical. That you're coming in, you're like, my head hurts, but it's like, does it really scratch that itch? For me, I really like it just because of the connection, which I think it scratches that itch from theater, is that personal connection. Less so of like, I'm performing. Because you're helping these students, like a lot of them, they range on a spectrum of like, they don't know how to make eye contact, so they're really great, and they like could go see an actual sick patient. So that's also, that's one of the reasons I enjoy it, is that connection with them, and that kind of satisfies, especially in these trying times without our artist friends. That it's kind of like the most I've got is the outside world, is talking to these med students. So
Well, that's cool that you can. It seems like maybe there's somewhat of a ensemble feel that you get, or at least a social feel.
Definitely. And before COVID, it very much was, especially over at Northwestern. A lot of the SPs are actors in the community, so we already know each other. So that camaraderie is there. And before cases, when we were all allowed to see each other, we'd be in like the break room, just, talking and chatting it up before the actual cases. Yeah. So we've tried to maintain a little bit that. We like talk to each other from our rooms, sticking our heads out the door. So we pushed through. So.
Yeah.
Joe, when did you come to Chicago?
I came to Chicago, so I graduated in 2014 from Ball State, and then I immediately went down to Actors Theater of Louisville, and then I came here. So 2015, May 2015, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy too. It was because my birthday is May 9th. I think I moved on like May 2nd. Got an agent on like May 6th. It was very crazy. Everything was just like, and then happy birthday. So, Chicago felt right. That was my interpretation of the city being like, you chose well. Good job.
Yeah. When I came here, what feels like 1,000 years ago now, was 2007. I didn't have a job or a gig. And but I still was like, I'm definitely here, Yep. And after 2 weeks, I got Brownco at Second City before I had a job that could actually pay a bill. And then I still just was like, yep, it's happening, Yep. And then like everything was fine after that. But like that first 2 weeks, it was weird. I wasn't nervous. It was just like, what's gonna happen here?
Am I gonna survive?
Right. And then I did, and then here we are in 2020, and I'm still
thriving.
So.
Yeah, it's amazing when you're able to take that leap and things work out. Like it's crazy. I think I moved here in 2009. And I mean, I grew up in the suburbs, so and I lived there a year after college too, with my parents. I don't know why, but I do know why. I saved money.
There you go.
There we go.
Age-old reason.
And so I had kind of that support when I moved into the city, and then I don't know what 3 months in, I got my first gig, like money gig, doing a one-man show about Abraham Lincoln and going to schools all around the city.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
yep.
man.
And those paid very well, too.
It paid really well. It was
great.
So much fun. I mean, I must have performed for at least, 100,000 kids.
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I did 200 shows over, 3 school years. So,
wow.
I mean, that's probably the thing that the most people have seen me in.
And that's what they'll recognize you from.
Yeah, no, and I do.
You may know him.
It's crazy because I teach out in Western Springs, kind of near where I grew up, And
okay.
one of my students this year was actually like, "Did you ever play like Abraham Lincoln?" And I was like, "Yes, I did. Oh my God, you saw that?"
Oh my goodness.
And it turned
Do you want me
out
to sign something?
exactly
Yes.
right. And it turned out they had gone to the school that was actually like down the street from where I grew up that I ended up
Okay.
performing at. And
Aw.
so it was just super cool to have that to have like kids recognize me from that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, theater. I miss it. I truly do. This is
Yeah.
making me miss it more. I don't know. I've kind of had this weird healthy, I think it's like I was ready for a little step back, I think, in my career personally. But yeah, I'm getting to the point where it's like, I miss it now. That creating feeling, getting in a room with people. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely weighing on me. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is a show or a role that you think you would never want to understudy?
Oh gosh, never want to understudy? I mean, I
Yep.
would never want to take on more than 2 roles, that's for sure.
Mhm.
I don't know. I've understudied so many like fast technical shows that I'm trying to think of like what
That's
would be
true.
added.
You have.
I mean,
You're-
Dracula, there was pyrotechnics, there was blood squirting everywhere. Like I was kind of thrown into the fire at a very early understudy age. I don't know. I can't think of anything. I'll ponder. Maybe it'll pop into my head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A nightmare there.
I think my answer, which I don't think I've shared with you yet, Elana, is Company, the musical, the Stevie Sondheim musical.
Oh, a
Yeah.
musical. That's a good answer.
Right,
Being thrown
right.
into a musical, I've never. I mean, Peter and Starcatcher was the closest. We only had that very tiny song. I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good answer.
but yeah, cause there's something like I totally understand that about Company. I mean, and I don't do musicals to begin with, so I don't even have to entertain the idea of understudying one. But that is a good one.
And I'm
And
a
Sondheim.
Sondheim freak. Like I
Yes.
love
Oh,
Sondheim.
I love it too. Yes.
But but that show is so depressing. And like it just and like I like the music, but I think I like it better separated from the play.
Yeah, I get that. Like if you listen to like the soundtrack, it leaves you in this space of like I don't know who I am. You know?
Yes.
Like if you just listen to it top to bottom, it's a very weird feeling it leaves you with.
Yeah. Actually, I think I have an answer now. Next to Normal. We recently watched a bootleg thing on YouTube. That show is wrecking. I'd never seen it before. I just listened to the music, and the soundtrack alone will get you. But yeah, that would be a very tough show, especially as the mom. Any of the characters, really. But yeah,
I'm not
to
familiar
put yourself
with
through
Next to
that.
Normal.
Next to Normal. Oh, it's a great show. It was a musical. I think came out early 2000s. Are you familiar, Scott?
I know of it. I don't think I've seen it yet. There's a good bootleg on YouTube though.
There's a good bootleg on YouTube.
Edit
I'll
that
give it
out.
a- Yeah, I know, right? Like, don't tell equity.
Oh, that's right. Oops. Bleep.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I'll have to check that out.
What do you want to tell if you like what kind of advice would you have for some up and comers, or even like you could think about it as for like young Joe breaking into this industry? What would you tell him?
I like this question. I listened to this question on the last one. And I think I have 2. So one that I would tell myself, and then one I would just tell people in general. And the first one I would tell in general is don't be an asshole, because that was told to us straight up front, first year of college. Is this just rule number 1? Because you don't know who is going to be doing anything, especially in Chicago. Your lighting designer could be your director the next show. Like, it's insane. So don't be an asshole. And then for myself, I think I would tell myself and then other actors retrospectively is that just really try to focus on finding who you are. And that's super vague, but like, especially, I mean, speaking of understudying, a lot of theater companies are going to like try to put you into a box. And like a lot of that's what theater is. They try to like, typecast you, and you get put into boxes and stuff like that. You can get put into an understudy box. But just really trying to focus on what you are as an artist and what really attracts you, and like really spending some deep soul searching with that of like, who do you want to be as an artist? What do you want to create? And maybe that doesn't mean acting. Maybe that means so. Yeah.
I love that.
That's the advice. Yeah.
I love that answer because especially in Chicago, like it's difficult to know where you fit in, and going for like what does attract you? Like, what are you interested in? What is drawing you to whatever company you want to work with, whatever play you want to be in? Like when you're starting out, you don't really have to like have like a fully formed idea of who you are, but just having an idea of like what direction you're heading in, and being open to what might come. But I love that about kind of thinking about who you are, because I think that especially comes into play in film and TV work. Where like, because I mean, theater, you know, we put on makeup, we put on everything, and you know, we can express that in a large way to lots of people. But like, but when the camera's on you and it's like right there, it catches everything. And so like
that vulnerability,
and if you're not being genuine to who you are, the camera notices, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that. You know, I want to ask about. I didn't realize that White Rabbit, Red Rabbit. I didn't realize that was in Terabang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, it was.
I didn't actually see it.
I handled the marketing for that, so that's not good.
Well, I heard about the show.
Big enough.
I heard about the show for sure. So, because I know JD and Oasis and David Serta, so many good. Oh, Stephanie Shum. So many good actors did it. And I'm so intrigued by that play.
That was crazy.
Yeah, can either of you just tell us a little bit more about that play and like what the how it's done?
No. Actually, the nature of White Rabbit, Red Rabbit is you only know when you see it. That's like literally like that's literally the thing about it. And there isn't, like, I don't know, Joe, do you think there's anything? Like, I feel like the answer's... Like,
no, okay, I mean, the playwright is very specific of like, this is just for you and the people that are in the room that night. Like, it's not the same show. So, I mean, it's a very interesting concept to talk about. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
But in terms like specifics, no, I don't think we can.
Well, so the play is designed to be performed one night by one actor, and that's the only performance they get, right?
Yeah, and then they're never supposed to talk about it again. It's never supposed to be discussed, you know. I guess you could discuss it with the people that were there, but, you know.
They open the script in the moment. They don't, you know, there's no pre-reading, no preparation, no.
Like none.
That's the closest I've gotten to like you're on
receive, right. They receive the script in a sealed envelope the night of their performance.
Wow.
And then you just start reading. Yeah. And it like, I don't know. And now I'm worried. I don't want to say too much about it.
Yeah, now how do I ask a follow-up to that?
You
really,
don't.
You don't.
It was a unique thing. You go try it and see it. Hopefully we can do another round of it. I think it'd be so much fun.
Maybe,
yeah. It was really, I'll just say about the experience of being able to produce it. It was again, like when you see the people who have done White Rabbit, Red Rabbit, and then, it's insane. Like it probably every celebrity you know has performed it at one point, especially theater actors. Like it's a big deal. And except the thing that's amazing about it is like prior to like Georgette and our previous other artistic director, like I'd never heard of this playwright. But this playwright's play has been done by hundreds of incredible actors over the years. And so that happening, and then us being able to produce it and land the folks that we were able to get, like it was really incredible from a producing company standpoint that we had the opportunity to bring that to Chicago. You know, like it was just... It was fantastic, though we clearly didn't do a good enough job of connecting it to our name because you didn't even know it was us. So,
round 2, you can better believe it's going to be stamped everywhere.
To be fair, you know, there are a few companies that sound similar. Collaboration is the one that comes into mind because it's a portmanteau. And it was in Wicker Park, which is where Collaboration is. So, like, I think that's why I thought Collaboration. But now that I'm intimately involved with in Terabang,
we will never make that mistake.
Yeah, and I certainly will not either. I want to make sure that we talk about Christmas Carol. Because that's a huge show that the Goodman does every year. What was it like jumping into that machine? Like, I'm so curious.
I mean, talk about a machine, and that's lasted for generations, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been around for a staple in Chicago. It definitely, because they change up the show every year. Like every director kind of aims to breathe new life into it and make it a little fresh. But like the sets and everything and the mechanics of it stay the same. So in terms of jumping in, they kind of just I was handed like a basic kind of run sheet that like tweaks were probably going to be made, but they knew like what my character tracks were gonna be doing. It was very technical. It was, I also came in the way that they do it. They bring in their understudies, I think like a week or two before tech. So they had already been rehearsing. I came into basically a full produced show. They just needed a set. So that was also kind of very intimidating. And I did actually have I guess this comes as close as the You're On in 5 that actually happened. The very first week I'd seen the show once, just write down as much blocking as you can. And then the next rehearsal, Bob Cratchit, who I was understudying, they're like, hey, he's out sick with the stomach flu. Can you do the opening or run of Act 1 today? I'm like, but I did it, so that was fun.
Were you had a script at that point still, though?
I had a script, but I was able to get off book because they're just little chunks, and like they're pretty easy, the little chunks of scenes, Christmas Carol. So, but yeah, that was being thrown into it when you're with actors, especially kids. That's the other crazy thing, is that these kids are at a whole other level of Christmas Carol. Like, they think the adults are professional, but these kids like know the show backwards and forwards. They could whisper your lines to you and will if you forget them. So, yeah.
Joe, has there been any instance, or what is your experience in terms of feeling like you're expected to or choosing to basically like mimic your overstudy or make the same choices or whatever? Like what has been your experience in that regard?
I think it varies with director, but for mine, I guess I've done so many mechanical shows that you kind of are required, at least movement and acting wise. Like a lot of the same stuff has to be done in order or the show won't work. But in terms of like getting your own little spin on it, I don't know. I think I've been pretty fortunate with having directors and that kind of conversation with those actors themselves, that we kind of get to build that role together. So yeah, that's been my experience.
That's
Does
really
that answer that question? Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. I think it really, I think you're a super spoiled understudy actor, so congratulations.
I do recognize that. This is fully,
And I'm really enjoying hearing people's different experiences with that overall, but with that point in general, because it's always this unknown, when you understudy something, you don't know what's going to be expected. And then the idea of like doing everything exactly as someone else when you yourself are an artist, are a creative, and that kind of internal conflict it could create. Like, I'm really enjoying having that discussion. I think that's super interesting. Yeah,
I feel very fortunate with the companies I've gotten to work with. That's great.
Now that you're starting to kind of awaken back to wanting to connect to theater, do you have anything lined up?
So actually, yes, I'm gonna try to on Interrobang. I think we've announced this, our ensemble series. Can I talk about that?
You can talk about it. It's not clearly announced, but it's not secret anymore. We just have, we're going bit by bit, but you can talk about it.
Yeah. So I think that's been a fun way. We're just kind of using our Patreon account to kind of share little pieces of us of like what we're doing to stay creative. And so that's kind of already sparked my brain because honestly, I've kind of taken a break. I've checked out. I've kind of let my creative brain just rest. And like I said earlier, I think that was what needed. So, getting my brain kind of fired back up to that, writing, I'm kind of getting back into that. Hopefully we'll write a little. I'm working on something with Laura at the moment. Laura Berner Taylor, your first podcast guest too. So we're gonna try to bring a little comedy back to these dark times. I think my goal personally, I'm gonna put this out in the universe just so it becomes true. I want to become the next Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, and I feel like Laura is. I got the eyebrows, and she's got everything. So I think we could do that. So I'm sending that out. Into the ether.
I so see that. When you're writing, since you are an actor, how do you find that the writing kind of allows you to take control of like the project in a different way?
I mean, you get to, specifically when you're writing for yourself and like personal stuff. I mean, I get to see characters that I don't get to see. Like, I think that's a huge part of why people start to write their own material, is because, you know, there's not roles for them out there. At least they're not seeing themselves represented. So I think that's a huge, powerful, and an empowering thing when you can, you know, create a character for yourself and like give that unique perspective that, you know, is not being seen anywhere else. So, yeah.
Definitely. When did writing kind of start to be a thing for you?
I took a playwriting course in college and loved it. And then I kind of just sat back, and I always had this one idea, which got turned into Small World, which got produced with New Colony a couple years ago, 2 years ago. So I had this idea in college that kind of was just bouncing around in my brain, and I did nothing with it until I got in Chicago and put it through the New Colony process. I've been kind of just got the little writing bug probably about, back in college.
Cool.
On and off, too. I wouldn't consider myself a writer, but I write. I dabble.
I don't know. I think you're broaching writer status, sir.
I'm approaching, well,
I mean, you're
with
public, you're
with
produced.
the comedy series.
Yeah.
That's true. All right. All right. Oh, yeah, this is flattering.
That's more than most of us actors who also fancy ourselves writers.
Listen, I've received an email that went to like playwrights, and I've literally been like, I'm sorry, who told you I'm a playwright? You know, like and it's always like coming from some other place. I maybe wrote a thing, this one, you know, and I'm like,
yeah,
but I didn't say that. So it's weird. It's weird. Like, you are, I'm sure, perceived as a playwright because you have a published play, you know, in addition to a produced play. So technically you're a playwright.
And that's
you're much more playwright than I am. So, like, I wish people quit saying it sometimes.
Cool. So I think it's time for props.
Props.
Yeah. Joe, do you got anybody that either was an understudy that you want to give some props to, or a last show that you saw in quarantine or anything before quarantine?
Oh, so actually, I was thinking about this. You are the last show that I saw before quarantine.
Oh, we got to tell people to stop saying that.
No, we don't.
Oh. No.
If it's true, go on,
it's
Joe.
True. Sure. And you were unfortunately one of the shows that like didn't get a life. And so like, I think a lot of people. So yeah, I saw it twice. I saw opening, or your press opening, and then I think I saw it again opening weekend. So nice. Yeah, that was the last show. Loved it. I was looking forward. I'm hoping that maybe we'll develop into some kind of virtual thing later on. But I think props, I'll keep it in the Interrobang family. Nancy Payne killed it when she had to go in for Sarah Guys. Out of nowhere, talk about You're On in 5. So yeah, Nancy Payne, if you're listening, props to you.
we should probably send this to her. I don't know her personally.
We should encourage the people we give props to listen.
I think this is the second episode in a row where we've mentioned her as like the awesome understudy. So
rightfully so.
Right.
Yeah.
And she was just like dipping her toe back into acting. So welcome back.
Yeah. And I had been coaching her. So
That's right.
We had several sessions up to that
That's
point.
right.
Oh.
There's always an army behind the success. Yeah.
Right. It's really great. She is incredible, though, for sure.
Yeah, so props to you guys.
Oh, thanks.
Well done, Scott.
and you. Let's be honest.
Stop saying that.
A one-man show is in very many ways a two-person show between the actor and the director, and so you get as much credit as I get for that.
Definitely.
Yes. That's kind of you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna ask you this question. Mm-hmm. This is our new segment. We're working on it. Okay.
Yes.
So,
Guinea pig.
Question of the week for Joe Lino. Theater ER, theater RE. Which one? Why? Talk about it. Or what does each of them mean? What do you think?
Oh, I see what you mean. Theater, because I was like, theater ER, like emergency? What? How you spell it? How you spell it? No, see, I am a firm believer. It is RE. ER, I think it sounds community. I don't know if I'm offending anyone when I say that, but it sounds like community theater. Like that's when I would use ER if I followed it after community. But I think it's probably I don't know, it's like a pompous thing to spell it R-E. It's a way we made ourselves a little bit more important because we're actors and we don't have much. So we have to make ourselves fancier. So.
That's so
awesome.
funny. We were kind of talking about this a little bit yesterday. That I always kind of see the RE as like this pretentious thing. That like I don't know. Theater already has a reputation for being pretentious. So like I wouldn't like, especially. I have a feeling like that when people they don't know how to pronounce a word, they don't like that word. So like people with RE theater might be like, what is that, theatre? You know? I don't know.
Theatre? Yeah.
So
Make it even worse.
Never experienced that, but I'm not like never, not in, I don't know. Luckily, you know, but my opinion has always been ER is the building and RE is the art. And because I simplified it in that way, I know, you know, pompous or pretentious never occurred to me because I'm just like, that's the difference, the end, you know? So I'm always interested to hear. And I've had one person in my whole life who isn't a theater person say that it could be seen as pretentious. So we were just talking about, I was mad because somebody in a company that I ran in Detroit, kept writing it as ER when it was supposed to be RE. And I was just talking with this one person about it, and she said, like, probably because she thinks it's pretentious, but nobody else in my whole life has ever said it, you know. So but yeah, I feel like that's the simplest way for me to have understood it, is building an art.
That's a simpler way to put it. I kind of think that's what I was trying to say. Yeah. Community theater.
Right.
Because the other thing is, like, a movie theater is a building and it's ER, you know? So, like, the actual brick and mortar space has been ER in my mind.
Yeah. Elana, anything happening this week for you?
Oh, my gosh. I've been sleeping on my couch all week. And I have this wonderful bed, and like, I don't even know what, like, I usually treat myself to sleeping on my couch on the weekend. It's like my little getaway, and I watch TV. I don't have one in my bedroom. And then, like, yesterday I was like, I literally haven't been in my bed. So I still went to sleep on the couch, and then I woke up to go to the bathroom at like 4, and then I came and got in the bed. And so I slept in the bed from like 4 to 8. So I can like wean myself back into my bed. So that's the most interesting thing that happened to me this week.
I think that is my favorite answer for like, what's going on in your life right now?
I'm sleeping on the couch.
I might use that. I'm sleeping, and I'm trying to wean myself, you know, back into a relationship with my bed. You know, we've been distant for a while. I'm trying to work on that. You know, the couch and I have had an affair.
That's the truth. Scott, what about you?
Brilliant.
Well, I guess the big exciting thing in our household is that we got a rug, a large rug from a friend. And we have 2 cats in the house, and they are loving the carpet, just rolling around and like scratching at it and like
the little kneading.
They love it, and it's like an ugly carpet too, and so we got it for free too. So like, it's also like, hey, scratch it up all you want, you know, like,
this is yours. This is all yours.
Exactly. I mean, you know we're smart enough to not like spend money on a carpet with 2 cats in the house. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and I watched all 8 Harry Potter movies in like 4 days while doing puzzles.
Well done.
Yeah.
While doing puzzles. That sounds like a wonderful activity.
It was.
Which one is your favorite? I'm a huge Harry Potter fan.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, great. I think for the movies, 3 and 4 are just so tight and good.
Yeah. Well, 3 is a game changer.
3 is, the whole series, man, Prisoner of Azkaban is so good. Like, I just, and also I saw the movies before I read the books.
Okay.
So
Alana is actually not happy. Her face
I do
is
not approve
happy right now.
Let me put that differently. I saw 1 through 4 before I read the books. So
okay. Interesting choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not really like a book person in the first place.
Yeah.
So I was kind of just seeing them to be part of the experience. But then
Know the lingo.
yeah.
No, well,
but then like
it's a cultural phenomenon for a
it
little bit. You were out of the loop if you didn't know.
Exactly. So and then the third one was just so good. Like I just didn't see that whole third act with the time trap. Oh, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I mean, at this point, come on,
right?
HP,
Right.
So it just blew my mind. I was like, oh, this is Harry Potter.
Yeah.
This is actually good. Like this isn't just for kids. This is good.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
the
books
darkness
were,
of it.
yeah, I didn't care about Harry Potter, period. Like, leave me alone. My mom and one of my sisters, everybody's older than I. My closest sister is 8 years older than I. So she and my mom kept being like, you need to read these books. And I'm like, no, I don't. I got a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad you're enjoying them.
No.
You don't have to drag me into this, you know? They would not let up. And my we're readers, you know, so it wasn't like I'm like I don't want to read. It's like I don't care about Harry Potter. And then I used to do the Harris poll online, and they would send you rewards. And so one day they had the first 3 as a box set. I could get it for free. So I was like, fine, I'll just get these stupid books for fucking free, you know. And and the first one I read, I was like, okay, it's a perfectly fine book. Like I don't hate it, but I'm not getting why all the pressure, you know. So like the second one, I'm like, oh, these kids are cool. I'd be friends with them. And then the third one. You know, like I'm like halfway through the third one. I'm like, where's the fourth one? Is the fourth one out? You know, like it just like, and then it just escalated to the point where like I was devouring them, and I had to come to Chicago for some auditions when book 5 was out, and I took the train so I could read Harry Potter. I had a car, but I'm like, I can't drive and read at the same time, so. And I worked at Enterprise doing book 4, and I was like, I would go hide in the garage and like in the back of an SUV and like read book 4, like that. Like it just sucked me, took me in. And then the movies, which I'm like, they're fine, you know. But I had read the book, so it's so much more fulfilling. But for some reason, the time between 4 and 5, I reread 5 right before I saw the movie, and it was the worst thing to ever do, right?
Yeah.
Because all the details are so fresh, and then I'm watching this movie that had to be edited. And I was like, I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
That made 5 kind of like the worst for me because I had read the book again right before seeing it. So
I'm really hoping that like with all these HBO series coming out that we're going to get a full Harry Potter like series experience, because those books are chock full. The classrooms are some of my favorite scenes, and those are the first things on the cutting floor. So
yeah.
No,
I agree.
When I was reading through the books, like I was just like, how have they not made this into a series? Like, why did they? I mean, I guess I get it because movies make a lot of money, but
all about those.
There's gonna be a reboot at some point, and like
I hope so.
Yeah,
I think they're going to start with the Marauders. I think that's where which I'm all for. You know, let's do the background and then work our way through. Yeah.
They're gonna have to wait till JK has been forgiven. Or
that's true.
gone.
We've also got JK. She just won't stop talking. So
yeah, if she could just shut up, like please just shut up, like that's all.
If these thoughts were in your head before, like that's not great. But at least we didn't know. So just stop talking.
Right.
Quit this, yeah, you know. So there's that.
There is. But the books are like it's crazy too, because like just the story of the books and the lessons you get from the books are so antithetical to her current views about trans people that it's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
And the fact that she doesn't even for her to have been revered, and she doesn't identify that in her books. I mean, and she can go as far as to suggest that Dumbledore was a gay man, but like all of these lessons and everything about like what that means is it was accidental, you know, like, and that just means she's a really fucking good writer, right? You know, like these things that we think we're pulling from them aren't there because she put them there on purpose. It's just how, you know what I mean? That's how good and that's how complete her characters are and how rich their relationships are. And that makes her an excellent writer, which doesn't mean she was trying to send particular messages, right? She just made a complete and whole ass story that works on so many levels, clicking on all cylinders, accidentally.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. I've never heard it put that way, but it's so true. That separation. Because I was leading on to that too, of like the separation of the artist and the art itself. But like, yeah, no, beautifully put. Well done. Yeah.
Well,
Make that a sound bite.
Thanks.
Joe, do you got is anything fun happened to you this week?
Well, like you guys, I mean, you guys got the bed and the rug. What do I got? I think we're gonna die. Oh my gosh, my anniversary is tomorrow, so that's what we're doing. We're this whole week. I think we're gonna try to do a little anniversary week to make things up.
Sweet.
So, yeah, it's my 4-year anniversry.
Oh, congratulations! It's my
you.
4-year anniversary of singlehood.
No, you have your bed and the couch. I don't want to hear anything about it. You have a neglected bed behind you.
That's true. You've been neglecting that bed too, so...
You just told us all.
Yeah. For those of you listening, she is petting her bed right now.
We think they're gonna be okay.
They're gonna be fine.
Awesome.
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, this was so much fun.
Yeah, we really
this was a fun conversation. I love this. Yeah.
So glad
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing it. We really appreciate it. We hope that our conversation today provides greater insight into the acting process of working actors in Chicago, as well as the realities of choosing an artistic life and the challenges that come with it.
If you want to ask any questions, give other feedback, suggest guests, want to be a guest, send an email to understudypodcast@gmail.com.
Our theme song and all our other music is by Laura McKenzie. If you liked it, please hit subscribe on the podcast player of your choice, because right now we're still gaining our little podcast wings. Tell your friends. If you hated it, tell your enemies.
And their parents.
And their stupid parents. We're going to say it every time now.
I don't know why I want to do that, but I do.
All right. That's all we got for you this week. Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye. Cheers.